Welcome back to another Dagger Devlog. I have some exciting new changes that I want to go over today. But before I do that, I would like to encourage you all, if you're enjoying the series so far, it would mean a lot to me if you could leave a thumbs up and subscribe. It helps a lot. It gets the video pushed out there so more people can see it. So now that I'm sure you've all done that, let's get right into this devlog. So the first thing I want to go over this week is the hitbox system. One of the main elements of our combat system is obviously going to be the ability to engage hitboxes. Now the thing with hitboxes is you don't want hitboxes to always be active. You only want them to be active at certain times during different abilities. So I wanted to do this in a very flexible way. And I figured the best way for me to accomplish this would be to use the animations themselves, because we can have access to their keyframes to add events. So this is how I'm doing it right now. So here you can see our player object, and in the inspector I have the basic attack ability selected. When we scroll down to the animation, you'll see that we have the attack 3 combo 1 animation playing for this ability. And when I open that ability up and we select our player and we choose the attack 3 combo 1, you'll notice that when I click down here we can run through the animation and you can see these hitboxes on all of the limbs here. So these are the key hitbox activators. So we got them on the feet, we've got them on the hands, and then of course we have them on our weapons as well. So our weapons will have a hitbox, both offhand and main hand weapons. And so if we go through our animation, you'll see that we start to do a swing. And then when we hit this frame here, you'll notice that there's a little icon here. This is called an animation event. So I can add animation events to specific keyframes of our animations. The on hitbox activate then gets called from this event. So we can choose any kind of event activator. This is on hitbox activate. And then we can specify the type of hitbox that we are wanting to activate here. And in this case, we're just activating our main weapon hitbox. Then we step through to the next frame. So this frame here will have an active hitbox. This frame here will have an active hitbox. And then lastly, this one here will also have an active hitbox. And then we hit this one and you'll notice there's another event here. When we click on that event, it's running an on hitbox deactivate. And we're providing the main weapon. So that's deactivating the main weapon's hitbox. So that gives us keyframe specific control of our hitboxes. And of course we can choose any other type of hitbox as well. So let's say we also wanted to add into this another hitbox type. We can add another animation event. So what we do is we come here and we choose add event. And then we can just come down here and click hitbox activate. And we can choose, in this case, let's say our hand right. Now this event will activate our hand right's hitbox. So now we step through, and let's say that it runs through a little bit longer on this one, and we can add another animation event. And in this case, now we want to do hitbox deactivate, and then we just choose the hand right. So now we're deactivating the hand right. This works really well. So this gives us specific control over our animations hitboxes. We don't have to rely on arbitrarily setting times and setting timers for our attack swings. We can have very fine-grained control over when we activate our hitboxes and when we deactivate our hitboxes. We can demonstrate this by running play mode, and now when I activate an attack, you can see the visualization of the hitbox activating. So we only have active hitboxes at that point of the animation. Nice. Now that we have collision hitboxes running, it was time to add the ability to do damage using these hitboxes on our abilities. So what I've done is I've added a damage stat to our ability. You can see here in our basic attack ability, we have an aggressive modifier with a value of a min and a max. We also have the option to make this multiplicative, and we have the ability to attach conditions to our aggression modifier. So what the aggression modifier is designed to do is it is designed to give the ability some form of damage output. So in this case, it's very basic right now. We're just taking the min and the max and we're running a randomization between these two values. We're checking to see if it's multiplicative, and then we either add it as just a flat rate value or we multiply it. And then we also run our conditions. Well, actually we'll run our conditions first to make sure we can actually apply this modifier. This will probably become a little bit more complex later on, but for now this kind of does the job. Now when we jump back into our scene, we can deal damage to our dummy characters like so. This is great and all, but I kind of want to see the damage output. So let's go ahead and add some damage numbers. I found a really nice asset on the asset store that visualized numbers, so let's chuck it in. After integrating the damage numbers asset, I went ahead and added a damage event script hook, as you can see here. Inside of this event hook, we're just capturing the damage done in a damage action, and we are grabbing the output and applying it to our gameplay text. Let's see what it looks like with damage numbers. Sweet. That turns out really good. Now that we have our hitboxes sorted out and our damage dealing, I wanted to be able to add, in my opinion, is going to be the funnest part of this, is the effect system. So having an effect system that can be used on any ability. In order to do this, I needed to follow a similar approach to the hitboxes, where I need to be able to control from a keyframe specific point of view the ability to invoke an effect. So this will be really easy with our animation events. So that's exactly what we did. So here's how I wanted it to work. We have our character and we have our animation for our basic attack. We run through the keyframes and we find the keyframe that we want to activate this event. I would say probably this one. We can add our event, and I've created a new function here that we can hook into called onAnimationEffect. And the onAnimationEffect, effect, what it will do is it will take an effect data. So we are using a data-driven approach. So if we come down to our effects here, you see I have a number of different effects that I've already created. The one we're after for this particular attack is our basic attack 1 item effect. So what we can do now is if we come back to our event, all we need to do is drag in our basic attack data. And now this, if we open it up, you'll see it has all of the specific effect manipulation data. So it has our position, has our rotation, our scale, our destruction, our loop, our duration, blending, origin, stuff like that. So, and then in here we have the actual particle effect that we run. So this is something I haven't gone over yet, but I have a bunch of particle effects that I've used from the asset store. I found some really good ones that were on sale, I think last spring. So I bought a whole bunch of these different effects, and I can show you those soon. And I'll actually demo it with our character. So let's go ahead and save this, and let's see how it looks. So after tweaking the effect, you can see I was able to get a really nice sword slashing effect running with our particles. And this is invoked keyframe specifically. So now I wanted to add 2 more abilities that I could add effects to. Unfortunately, I lost the footage of putting these together, but let's have a look at the end result. I am so thrilled with the effects system. I think it turned out fantastic, and it's really easy to implement. The simplicity really shines here with the animation events. I'm not going to go over the effect data too much, but basically I was able to add ways that we can manipulate the effects for the ability type, and this is all controlled through the effect data. Lastly, I worked on the cooldown system. I'm not going to go into too much detail with the cooldown system, but basically all it is a way to lock abilities after they're being used, so they have a cooldown. That way you can't just spam certain abilities, and we can even have stats that lower cooldowns on your abilities, so that you can have kind of like a build diversity in the game. So if we take a look at our basic attack ability data, you can see that we have a cooldown option here, and right now it's set to 1 second. I also have something below it which isn't being used yet but will be useful in the future, is a cooldown modifiers. And so what this means is that can this ability have cooldown modifiers applied to its cooldown? And perhaps I'll have a cooldown minimum. So if we have some kind of a stat that lowers 20% of the cooldown or something like that, we can have some kind of a clamp to make sure that the cooldown doesn't become too low. But that's the idea with that. So let's have a look. Let's use our basic attack now, and you'll notice I can't spam it. So that's every 1 second. So now if we jump back to our cooldown here and we change it to 5 seconds, when we use our ability, you'll notice I can't use it. So now it's set to every 5 seconds. So pretty straightforward. I still need to add the display so we can visualize this on the screen, but I think this is a good start. So that's everything for this devlog. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. We're making a lot of progress, and working on these visual things has been really fun. Next episode, I think we're going to be working on ability sound effects, effect sound effects, and I want to put a heavy focus on the combat still. Just make sure that things like the camera rotations are working based off of our attack abilities. Things like that. If you liked the video, remember to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more episodes coming in the future. And until next time, take care. The harder part. As many items as we.